It's time to turn the tables on adversaries. Give your SecOps the power to prioritize and predict incoming threats and act before they enter your organization. McAfee Endpoint Security, now intelligently driven by M-Vision Insights. See it in action at McAfee.com/endpoint.
Once again, thank you for your time to join in today's WestCon webinar section. Today's our topic is McAfee Partner Connect. This is to brief you on McAfee programs and also showing you on how McAfee product reacts when your environment's being attacked. If you only see yourself as an attendee, only don't be worried. Because this is a WebEx event setting, so you're only able to see presenter and also yourself. Actually, there is other attendees in this webinar section. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us a Q&A box, so we will be addressed accordingly. Before I start to brief on McAfee program, let me introduce my team. I hope everyone can see my screen. So let me introduce my team. The first lady is our marketing manager, Jean Lam. She's helping us to set up today's webinar sessions. Thank you for her. So second one is myself. My name is Sammy. I'm the product manager for McAfee. And the third one is Rajini Mohan. You can call him as Raj. He is our pre-sales and also today's presenter. After that, we have Faizul Nizam and also Chuwaiget. Both of them is our McAfee post-sales engineer. Okay, let me start on McAfee program. The first program is Competitive Displacement Program, McAfee Channel Sales Incentive. So how can you entitle for this incentive? Actually, it's very easy. So you just only submit a deal reg, and upon the deal reg approved, you will be entitled for $150 USD. And the payout is in a debit card. It's not in terms of voucher. Yeah. So there is some criteria that you have to take note on that. So the deal reg, you have to submit yourself, which means the partner itself. Distributor cannot deal reg on behalf. If let's say the distributor deal reg on behalf, right, then this incentive will be disqualified. And partners must fill in the competitive brand as well. The deal size has to be more than 250 users. The durations for these programs, right, is from 1st of November 2019 until the 1st of December 2020. Another must and important notes that you have to take on that is must fill in a campaign name, which is bring security in visions on the direct form. If let's say you miss out this campaign name, right, then the incentive program will be disqualified as well. Okay, let me move on to second incentive. Okay, second incentive is bring security in visions, deal closing bonus. The previous one we talked about a deal reg approved, right? So this program is for deal closing, which is continue on the previous program. How can you entitle for this? So it is also very, not say easy, but you just only deal closing in between 1st of September to the 1st of December 2020, then you're able to get additional payout incentive. So let's see how can we get this incentive payout. There is a table in this slide. So if let's say the deal size is in between 25,000 to 75,000 USD, then you're able to get additional payout on 500 USD. And the deal size is in between $75,001 to $150,000, then the payout will be $750. If the last one will be $150,001 to $250,000, then you're able to get $1,000 incentive payout. So this will quite pretty straightforward. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me a questions in Q&A chat box, so I can be address you, and also my colleague in the webinar can be address you according as well. Okay, this is the end of my program briefing. So let me pass the presenter to Raj.
All right.
Yeah, just a moment, yeah.
All right. Okay, let me share my screen real quick. All right, here we go. All right, let me just hold on a second. Really laggy here. Hold on. And here's my pretty face. Now I'm gonna share my screen. Right. Well, thank you, Sammy, for the introduction. So my name is Raj. I'm the pre-sales for McAfee Solutions in WestCon. So today I'm going to talk you through one of McAfee's latest offering, which is device to cloud defense, right? Which covers the security on your endpoint perspective and how it can take full advantage of McAfee's cloud technologies to make those features even better, right? So, now that Sammy has told you that all these nice incentives that you might want to get a hold on, but how can you start this conversation with your customer, right? So the first thing before we talk about any solution is that we need to present the problem to the customers, right? So that both all parties will understand what they're dealing with, and at the same time, I can take this opportunity to show you how realistically an attacker could compromise an endpoint that is defenseless, essentially, right? So here I am on my PC. So what I'm going to do now is to remote into my virtual machine, and in this exercise, this will be our target machine that's going to be compromised. Right, you can see the label on the top right there, just to make sure everyone's not confused. And you can see at the bottom that McAfee agent is already installed, but here we don't have any endpoint security software actually deployed onto this endpoint. So it's not going to be able to protect the endpoint from what we're going to do to it, right? So on the other hand, we have an attacker machine, which is a Linux-based machine, and it's all command line. Don't worry, I'll explain throughout the whole thing. All right, make sure everyone can see it. Right. So as an attacker, what I need to do first and foremost is to generate the actual malware that I need to trick the user into, clicking. Then it can make a connection back to my my system, right? And I'm using Metasploit framework, which is free and open source for everyone to use. And I can quickly just generate that file right now. It's an exe file, since we're targeting Windows machine. And I open up WinSVP so I can access the file system of that attacker machine to copy out that file. Here we go. And I'm going to copy it to my file server, which the target machine also has access to make this whole thing easier. Right. So now back on the target machine. Here we go. I'm going to copy out that file. Now, sure, no one will actually intentionally infect themselves, but you can easily imagine this could be a program that is disguised as a legitimate program application, or copy out from a USB drive from a friend or something, right? And before the user click on that file, I need to first prepare my attacker machine to receive that connection. Again, I'm using Metasploit framework here to launch the attack. Typing all this stuff here, you don't really need to know what all this means. Later on, you see what sort of damage it has the potential of doing to the victim machine. All right. So I'm setting up. I also need to set the IP address and the port number. So when a machine is compromised, it knows exactly where to communicate to. to form that connection, and I type it wrongly this time. All right. So, and I just start the exploit, and now it's ready to receive connection from potential victim machines out there on the internet, right? So the user, all they have to do is just double click it. Nothing really happens on the surface, but if you open up Task Manager, you can see that reverse TCP is running in the background already, right? And we will quickly switch back to the attacker machine is actually already established a session with that machine. So now that attacker is quote unquote in the system, what can we do, right? So there's a huge list of commands, but I'm just going to walk you through a few. Key scan is what we know as a keylogger that records all the keystrokes that the user might be typing on the machine itself, right? So just to test this out, I'm going to launch Google Chrome and just type something random, right? Key scan test, all right? Or I open up Notepad and just again type something random, just for the sake of this demonstration. So yes, so throughout this whole thing, the user could easily be browsing to their favorite websites, logging in using their account, and I could realistically get all those data from there. And just dumping the key scan, I can see exactly what the user has typed during that time, right? Which is, dangerous enough, but this is just the tip of the iceberg here. So what we can do next is to remotely launch a program. In this case, it's a harmless little calculator app on Windows, but it can easily be something else. And especially in the next part, where I will show you how you can upload a file from this attacker machine directly onto the victim machine, right? And note that this attacker could be on the completely other side of the world and be able to do this remotely without the user knowing, right? So I'm just transferring the installer for the Metasploit framework. It only runs on Linux, but you can see it works. So you can easily imagine that this could be another piece of malware which the attacker can copy it on your behalf and launch it on your behalf, right? So, and the user cannot do anything about it. But as I try to go deeper and try to start to get more access to the system, you see that some operations have failed I don't have access, right? The main reason is because it's launched as a separate process, reverse TCP here, and Windows doesn't trust it because it's doing things that regular processors not supposed to do. And if we end the task right now here, and naturally the session will be disconnected from the attacker's machine. So now we're going to do this one more time, but with a twist. For an attacker, this is basically the first thing they would do, but I'm just demonstrating how you could actually hide yourself to be more stealthy. So we start this process again, but unlike last time, I can be able to see all the processes that is running on this machine right now, right? You can see Chrome is running, you can even see reverse_TCP is running on this machine, right? But what I really care about is a process that Windows inherently trusts. For example, Explorer, right? And I just filter that out and find that the process ID is 1460. That's a very important piece of info, because now I can migrate this connection over to Explorer EXE to hide myself, right? And now that I'm migrate successfully and back on the target machine, the process is gone. I've successfully hidden myself as part of Explorer.exe, which also allows me to have a lot more access to the system because Windows trusts that process. I can take a screenshot. I can do a hash dump, which in a way is like an encrypted version of the password, which I can just take this code and start brute forcing to guess what password fits this hash. And once I have the password, it's going to be a lot more dangerous. So all this can be done very easily using the Metasploit framework, which is a tool used by real attackers, and at the same time, security analysts that use this tool to test if a system or a network is secure enough. And there are like thousands of different exploits to choose from only on this tool. And me, for example, I'm just literally picking it from a menu, right? So what I'm going to show next here is to search for different types of exploit, and there's several ways to filter down to the kind that you want. For example, I want to know Windows-specific exploits that involves PDFs, right? And there's a huge list, right? And all this, like I can see, ranging from 2002, the exploits were really was discovered, and all the way to 2019 and so on, right? But what I really want to see is, are there any exploits that's discovered this year, so that it's a lot less likely that the user have already patched it, so a lot more likely for me to succeed, right, as an attacker. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of Windows specific exploits released in 2020, but only one, in Metasploit framework's perspective, only one that is also related to PDFs. So why did I choose PDF, right? Because we demonstrated that launching an exe file could connect back to the attacker machine to do all sorts of things. But a lot of people nowadays are more aware that they shouldn't just launch any programs. But PDF files are a lot more easier to trick people into opening it, right? But it's so easy to generate infected PDF files, right? I can just copy and paste, use the exploit. And I just need to set the IP address and the port number like I did before. And when that's set up, I just type run command exploit, and pretty conveniently, Metasploit framework has generated a PDF file for me, right? And I just go back to WinSCP, open up that folder, and this file. So when a user that is vulnerable towards exploit I'm using right now launch this file, it will automatically connect back to my machine, right? And I mean, this is a lot. This is like amateur level of using this attacking, because I legit just learned about this tool last week, and real attackers are a lot more creative and a lot more resourceful and do a lot more than what I can here. But just to show you that launching an attack is not as difficult as you might think, right? I don't want to start this over again. All right. So now that we set the stage, like the problem that we'll be facing, right? And in comes McAfee endpoint security, or ENS for that matter, right? It's endpoint protection tool, the solution that protects the endpoint from all sorts of different malware, right? And ENS comes with the main four modules: threat prevention, which is the signature-based detection for McAfee. Firewall is exactly what you think it is. It's very convenient if you have multiple different types of operating system, Windows, macOS, or Linux, and you can just use one firewall policy to secure your devices, your endpoints here. And web control focus on the web browser behavior to determine whether the websites or the things you're downloading from those websites are considered risky or not, because it could be malware that you're downloading. And the last part, adaptive threat protection, or ATP, is the next-gen solution that performs behavioral analysis on programs that's unknown to McAfee, so to protect users from zero-day malware, right? And as with all kinds of anti-malware solution, it will run in the background to scan different parts of the system to see if you've been infected or not, right? But McAfee, in this case, have tried to balance between productivity and security, in a sense that when the device is actively being used by the end user, it will slow itself down, the scanning, or just completely pauses it to make sure the user experience is not affected, right? And But when the user is gone back to idle mode, such as just passively reading a web page or gone for lunch break, for example, the scanning will continue exactly where it left off, even between reboots, right? So again, to balance that security and performance. Right. And assisting those different modules of ENS is Global Threat Intelligence, or GTI. It's McAfee's cloud solution to anti-malware, in a sense that the ENS software installed on your endpoint would do a lot of scanning and analysis, but GTI is able to come in to provide even more information because, it's a cloud computer. It's a lot more powerful, a lot more resources to detect not just signatures, but also URLs that web control can take advantage of, so on and so forth. So with GTI, in the demo later on, you'll see that it can be involved in many stages of malware detection. And in the latest version of ENS 10.7, McAfee has added a latest feature called rollback remediation, or enhanced remediation, right? Because as you remember before, I said that there's adaptive threat protection that will perform behavioral analysis on a program that is not known to McAfee to see if that program is doing anything harmful or not. But the problem is, by the time ATV finds out it's actually malicious, the damage is already done, right? So with enhanced remediation, or rollback remediation, McAfee is able to stop the process, delete the file, and rewind back to a state before the endpoint launches the program. You'll see that in action in the demo later, right? So how does that work? So when a suspicious file arrives, which means that McAfee cannot guarantee that this is safe, nor can it confirm that this is dangerous. It's right in the middle. It's unknown, right? So, which would trigger this behavioral tracking system that allows the user to launch the program, but monitors very closely exactly what this program is doing. And all those records is sent to the McAfee cloud, the GTI, which actually performs the machine learning algorithm to figure out if those behavior is considered malicious or not. And the results will be sent back to the endpoint. And if it is, the rollback remediation will happen, right? And all that happening, malware detection, behavioral analysis, all those events that happen on those endpoint, right, will be sent back to McAfee EPO, which is McAfee's centralized management system, where administrators can log in and look at the story graph to see exactly what the program was doing to better inform themselves of future potential infections, things like that, right? And I just said a lot of words, so let me put all those things into context, right? So those modules within ENS are actually not operating independently of each other. They actually work together to form multiple layers of defenses to an endpoint, right? So the first layer would be web control. So on my endpoint here, now that I finally installed ENS, I have all 4 modules installed and enabled right here. And I would just go to Google Chrome, right? And go to the zoo, which is a live repository of known malwares within out there in the wild that people actually are getting infected with, right? And we're going to download the malware superstar, WannaCry. There's so many of them here. And just going to download WannaCry. And as I try to download it, it seems to succeed at first, but very quickly McAfee Web Control spring into action, right? So what is this happening is that the Web Control sees this URL, this download link that I'm downloading from, sends it to McAfee GTI to see if this is malicious or not. And in fact, it is. According to GTI, it's known to deliver malware before this. So now that I'm downloading using the same download link, it doesn't even care if the file itself is malicious or not. It's just the fact that the link has known to deliver malware. So now when I open up Google Chrome, it's deleted automatically for me, right? But the problem is some really determined attackers could easily set up a completely new website using new IP addresses, things like that, to bypass this level of defense, right? And it's not that hard to imagine that really sophisticated ones would actually do this to avoid detection. So to simulate that event, that scenario, I'm going to disable web control to pretend that the first layer of defense has been bypassed, right? And assuming we're downloading from a brand new website that McAfee has never seen before. And now download will succeed, no problem, right? So web control prevents me from downloading stuff because historically that URL has been known to deliver malware. McAfee doesn't even check the file at all, right? So now that that's bypassed, threat prevention, as I said, is a signature-based detection, right? That will be directly interacting with the file itself. So let me continue now. And most anti-malware is by the time you download the file, it will automatically scan the file and raise an alert that tells, hey, this is a malware, and delete it for you, right? But this hasn't happened on this machine, and you will see why very soon. Is that as I try to extract the file, it turns out it is in fact encrypted. McAfee has no visibility into its contents. But now that I extracted it, very quickly McAfee threat prevention will pick that up as a malware and just kick it out of the system, right? So on-access scan actually, anytime the user interacts with a particular file, such as in this case extracting it from a zip file, it will automatically trigger a scan on that file to make sure it's safe before moving on, right? But there is a little problem with signature-based detection, and I think most people also are aware, is that new malwares are created so quickly that any anti-malware providers could only catch up so fast into compiling that signature database. On top of the fact that it's hard to guarantee that everyone has the latest version of signature installed, right? So in this next scenario, we're going to pretend that the signature database installed on this endpoint is not good enough to detect this malware. So to simulate that scenario, I'm going to disable on-access scan. So now I'm going to extract the file again, and you shall see that it doesn't get deleted, and I can just launch it straight away. But it doesn't seem to do anything, right? Because again, adaptive threat protection picked it up, because when the signature detection is not triggered, what it will do is upon executing the program, it will grab that signature of the file I just launched and send it over to the McAfee GTI cloud, right, to perform signature-based detection on there instead. So which gives us two main benefits, right? First, the GTI cloud is a lot more resourceful, it's a lot more powerful, could store a lot more stuff there. And second is it's always updated, right? So we don't have to constantly wait for McAfee to compile the latest signature database for us to install. And based on GTI, its reputation, it's definitely no malicious and immediately get kicked out, right? So now it seems like the only way forward is to either develop your own malware that nobody has seen before, or somehow change the signature of an existing one so that it will bypass all this detection, right? So this will help us to simulate a 0-day malware scenario where it's completely new and it's not picked up by any of the anti-malware mechanisms. But honestly, it's easier than you think, right? So what I have here is what we call a hex editor, right? I will extract the file again. All right, and on my hex editor, I will open that file. So as you can see, all this is complete gibberish, right? Which means that it's the actual code that the WannaCry malware is running. But I'm not sure if you can see at this size, but right there's a sentence of English, so we know that this is not the actual malware, just there for whatever reason, right? But all I have to do is to just change a few letters like from lowercase to uppercase, and that's it. I just have to change this to that will basically change the signature or the DNA of this malware enough that doesn't get detected by the mechanisms, but it still maintains its functionality. So I have this new one on my desktop, and I will just launch it. And there you go. WannaCry is doing its job. And somehow it's going backwards. Right, so this is the latest feature, enhanced remediation, right? And I will switch over to the EPO portal, EPO console. As an administrator, all these events, since it's sent back to the EPO server itself, as an admin, I can see that this event has happened. You can see here, resolve threats. All these are the ones that I just shown you, right? From the web control, blocking the file download, to the signature detection, so on and so forth, right? So the most important thing is the first one on the list, Real Protect Cloud, is the most recent one, that is detected based on that a particular program's behavior. You see in advanced details, malware detected using heuristics, right? And as an admin, I can go on to see the story graph to see what actually happened that triggered the enhanced remediation, right? And it's a lot of information. But here I'd like to show you the story graph. Well, the program that launched the malware is Explorer, so it's known to be trusted, right? So moving on, we have the malware itself, which in this case has become totally unknown because we've changed the signature. But because McAfee doesn't trust it, it will continue to monitor that process to figure out if this is indeed malicious, and in fact, it is, right? So that's the multiple layer of defense that McAfee ENS can offer to you. From the high levels like web control and threat prevention that can do all this detection very quickly of known malware, but still have sophisticated technology to detect unknown ones if the opportunity arrives, right? Oh, yeah. So, and a lot of people still care about ransomware, while some people would wonder, well, WannaCry came out so many years ago, right? So why are people still worried about it? It's because until now, while WannaCry has been a known malware, but ransomware as a tool for attackers to get paid, really, is still a very common thing, right? This is just a screenshot I taken last night from Security Brief, very nice website. This report just came out last week, yes, and it's really relevant, right? All these very recent reports that WannaCry may not be the ransomware to think about, but other types of ransomware has come up, and we should definitely be defended. So how does all that piece together, and what is Envision Insights, and how does it come in the picture, right? So with ENS, you are able to protect your endpoints from malwares all over the internet, right? And when those events are sent back to the EPO server, you as an admin can see what is happening within your environment. So Envision Insights actually expand that perspective to literally the entire world, really. Because what it is basically a cybersecurity news feed, but on steroids, in a sense. Because not only does it look into different types of campaigns, threat campaigns outside happening in the world, but it also gives you a lot more insights, actually, into what those campaigns are doing to different countries, to different sectors of the industry, right? And with all those information, it's able to compare how those campaigns work compared to your own environment to see if are you actually vulnerable to this attack, right? And give you, last but not least, a security posture to check if you are defended properly against these campaigns, right? And of course, if you see new ones on articles or on news, you can search on the Envision Insights as well to further inform yourself what's actually happening outside on the world, right? So I'm not sure if you can see this, but this is a screenshot I took while I was still installing ENS on my machine from the previous demo, and it shows me that contents, the signatures, are not installed at all because I haven't finished installing yet. So it will alert me to these shortcomings in my environment. And this is taken when I was doing that demo earlier, when on-access scan is disabled and GTI from web control is disabled, and that will be alerted within MVision Insights as well. So you can easily imagine that if you have tens or even hundreds of endpoints, when it's so hard to keep track, this security posture score is a very quick look into how your environment is doing against all those threats out there. Right. So now I will skip to, it's just me logging into MVision Insights. Yeah. So here we are on the home page. You can see the same security posture score. Now everything's 100% because I've enabled all those features back on. No problem. So going forward, yeah, you can see at a glance how you're doing, and I can easily click on campaigns that are trending globally, right? In this case, WannaCry ransomware, coincidentally. And from here, you can see a lot more information to educate and inform yourself to what is happening. And you can see on average how many devices are being infected according to the different sectors that your customer might care about, and also in terms of the country, right? And on the right side, you can also see which McAfee product has detected this malware, and 84% of them are ENS. And of those, 86% are signature-based detection, and while other cloud-based technologies do come in handy sometimes, right? So a lot of information to, again, let you see what's happening out there in the world. And going further down, you can actually get a look at the actual details that GTI take advantage of, such as the URLs and different domain names that when web control asks GTI, it can tell you, hey, these websites are not safe. And last but not least, MITRE ATT&CK framework, which is basically a collection of techniques that real attackers use to breach into a lot of different systems. And you can click on this to see which one WannaCry uses to, again, to educate and inform yourself, either as an administrator or legit security analyst. And all this information is so easily available right from the get-go, right? But we're not infected by ransomware, right? So let's skip forward to things that we are actually infected. You see, nothing that I need to pay attention to. But in terms of threats, individual threats instead of campaigns, these are the ones that are just shown in the demo previously. So you can see all these, the AI-based dynamic detection, which is the enhanced remediation thing. And all these others are, you can see that the one that involves web control is not here because it was never analyzed by McAfee. It's just blocked that file because it's from an unreliable source. This signature-based detection. So what you can do from MVision Insights now is with these infections that you are defended against, you can then see how common is this attack, how common is this malware, right? And you have those same red dots for you to hover over to see how many devices on average are getting infected according to different sectors, right? And you can see on the right side, I've pinned them so that I can keep an eye on it to check if I have any more information or any more infections in my network in the future, right? Yeah, it's about the same thing. And again, yeah, all this information is available to you. So wrapping all that up together with ENS, and then you have MVision Insights, is EPO, as I said a few times before, which is the McAfee's centralized management system that you can easily see what's happening. You can easily manage them by deploying new policies and also install new products from the same console. And with mVision EPO, which is McAfee's software as a service offering, will easily allow you to get up and running within minutes, right? It's like you just simply log into an account on the web browser to get that going. And the best part is all the things that I've shown are available to device to cloud offering, device to cloud defenses. All these features I just talked about are available on all three tiers of license. In fact, there's so many features I haven't even finished talking about the lowest tier one, which is there's one more disk encryption that because of time constraints we don't have time to get into. And as we step it up with mVision Premium, the customers can get a DLP solution as well as EDR solution if they need that. And as we move on to mVision Complete, we get a full force endpoint and CASB solution with web gateway on the cloud, right, to protect the devices all the way to your cloud solutions like Office 365 and so on. So this simplifies it. First one is endpoint centric. Second one gives you DLP and EDR features, while the mVision Complete gives you cloud web gateway and CASB for those customers with Office 365, G Suite, that sort of thing. So all that comes into a point where McAfee is able to help your customers very quickly accelerate to their digital or cloud transformation, especially in this day and age where so many people are working from home and so many customers, so many companies are moving their operation onto the cloud, right? So McAfee has all the tools they need to make sure that they're secure. So that's it from me. So I'd like to pass it back to you guys if you have any questions that I need answered.
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to put in the Q&A box. And also, if you would like to speak, you also can raise up your hand so we can unmute you to talk.
Yes.
It's time to turn the tables on adversaries with the first endpoint platform that dynamically strengthens your security posture. The power to prioritize incoming threats through real-time global telemetry, predict your risk level and ability to counter threats that matter, and act before they enter your organization. Win the battle before it begins. McAfee Endpoint Security, now intelligently driven by mVision Insights. See it in action at mcafee.com/endpoint.
I will see.
Raj, I think there is questions in the Q&A box. So maybe you would like to address for the first one.
Yeah, I actually started talking before I unmute myself, so let's do that again, all right?
Okay.
Yeah, so yes, 4 modules for ENS. They're all included for customers with ENS. They're not licensed separately. They're separate into different modules. It's easier for customer to decide to mix and match on different systems. So for example, if you have a desktop machine that is static in the office all the time, that is protected by your on-premise firewall, for example, maybe you don't need the firewall module, things like that. So that the ENS is always the most efficient you need. And what browsers are supported by web control? Browsers that are supported by web control are Chrome, Firefox, the Microsoft Edge, both the older version and the new one that's running on Chromium engine, and Internet Explorer, right? And within web control, you can actually set a policy to prevent your users from using browsers that you don't want. For example, say Internet Explorer is too vulnerable, you can disable it so the user on the endpoint cannot launch Internet Explorer. Will ENS work if it's not connected to the EPO server? Yes, it will. The EPO server communication is actually not that often. You periodically check in with the EPO server to download any new policies or any new software updates, or upload some event logs for the administrators to see. But all the signature database that you might have, or the policies that you already installed on the endpoint will continue to work. Does mVision Insight need another software installed on the endpoint? No. mVision Insights only require you to have ENS installed on your endpoint. So when you have that going, it's up and running. Any more questions from the floor?
Yeah, Raj, maybe I have a question. How often is McAfee malware signatures updated?
Oh, on the endpoint itself, the McAfee signature is actually updated every single day, if I'm not mistaken. Because my EPO server in my lab would have a new copy, new version every day I look into it. So, yeah.
Yeah, so which means it's quite often to update to get the news, right?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Right.
So it's really important for the users to also get an update for the endpoint.
Yeah, I think this is important as well for the technicians or the engineers to check what is the updates as well.
Yes. Yeah. And mVision Insights will be able to let you know whether if any endpoints do not have the most up-to-date ones.
Yeah, that's great. That's good to news.
Yep.
Okay. Is there any more questions? Yeah. Okay. So just now my marketing manager Jean has shared out the survey form link. So kindly help to fill up in order to redeem your door gift. So today webinar door gift is 50 ringgit of GrabFood voucher. Yeah. Remember to click submit. Yeah.
Yep. And also as Jin has posted in the chat, so if there's any more inquiries or any more questions you might come up after this, please feel free to contact us. We will be excited to help you out.
Yep. And you also can be like or follow our Facebook and Instagram page to get to know latest technology news.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. If nothing else, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you all for your time.
Yep. Thank you for your time. So we will be keep staying here until 11:30. So to remember fill in the survey form once again. Yeah. Thank you.